Um, Hopefully, a few other people join us tonight, but we'll have a small crew. I know it's first night of the county fair, and also the smoke is really bad. But
He did say he was going to the golf con
hmm
in Texas.
okay,
Well, he might be out of town and not.
right, okay, that's possible. So for those, I guess Maya's the only one who is brand new to us here, and our guest. We do this. Hey Maya, hello. Hey there. We do this on the first Thursday of every single month. It's a get together of Klamath Film members to talk about productions that are happening in Southern Oregon. And we always have a featured guest every month that we bring in from the film industry. We've had screenwriters, actors, directors, producers, and it's just a very free-form conversation about filmmaking that we have for a while to ask for advice and hear about people's stories, how they got into the industry. So tonight our guest is Stephen Moore. He is like I said, former University of Oregon football player who unfortunately he got caught in the crossfire of a shooting in Los Angeles, and it ended his chances of making it into the NFL. And so instead he went towards his other passion, which was music. And over time he started getting into composing music for films, and he's built quite a successful career for himself composing music to the point where he was recently hired by Netflix. So we get to hear about what it's like tonight working for Netflix, and the importance of music in film and how it sets the emotional tone and all of that. So thank you everyone for being here. First of all, I do have a couple of announcements. And I'll start off by saying that for those of you who are Klamath Film members, holy cow, do we have a lot of new equipment to check out. So if you are a Klamath Film member, an active paying member, you can check out any equipment for free for production purposes. We just spent about $10,000 on new equipment. So we have new cameras, new lenses, new microphones, a generator, various camera mounts. We bought a steady cam, we bought new microphones, all sorts of cables and adapters. So if you have a story in mind but you don't have the equipment, let us know and we will be happy to provide equipment for you. As long as you're an active member, you can check anything out that you want. So there's just a few examples of some of the new stuff that we just got in. We're probably going to buy a few more things here in the next month or two as we get closer to our film festival.
Do you have card readers?
Card readers? Yeah. Yes, we do. We also just finished a film camp for middle school and high school students. In middle July, we taught a week-long camp at the Ross Ragland, where middle school and high school kids got to learn all about basic crash course in filmmaking, from script writing and storytelling to camera operations to editing to everything. And now all those kids are off actively making their own films right now, and they will be coming together August 22nd at the Ross Ragland here in Klamath. We're going to have a showcase of all of the student films of the 15 kids that participated in our film camp. Hopefully all 15 end up making a film. And so we'll show those. It's totally gonna be for free, 2 o'clock, August 22nd, and we will probably live stream that as well because a couple parents have asked for that too. We also just wrapped up a film production here in town. It's the 4th film that has been shot here in Klamath County this year, which is fantastic. I think that's the most we've ever had in this county. We've had 11 feature films shot here going back to the silent film era. But the last feature film shot here was 2018. So we've had a documentary, 2 shorts, and then this is a scene from a couple of weeks ago that a film crew based out of Ashland was filming at the Herald and News. And then last Sunday they were filming downtown right at Sugarman's Corner. We actually had some interesting incidents. I had to call 911 during filming of this because an SUV decided to drive the wrong way down 6th Street. On the one-way, and drove right through the middle of our closed set just as there was an actress dancing naked in the middle of the street, and he almost hit her. And we had about 6 people, all with cameras, waving at the guy to go around or to stop because you're going the wrong way down a one-way road.
Going the wrong way because he saw her ahead of time.
Well, I don't know, maybe, but
You should let me know about that. I'm a security officer.
we did have security on hand, but still, we had several people actually drive the wrong way because we had to shut down Main Street for a couple of blocks in order to film a couple of scenes. But that film is called The Private Dance. Hopefully we will see it, I don't know, maybe next year's film festival. We might get a chance to see that. We have several current needs with Klamath Film. The Klamath Independent Film Festival is coming up September 17th through the 19th. In fact, we have one of our filmmakers joining us. Hey, Maya. We always need volunteers for that. People who will take tickets, people who will run the live stream, people who will help sell t-shirts. So if you can work 2 shifts that weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, September 17th through 19th, you'll get a free shirt, you'll get free admission to the festival and free food. So if you can help out with that, that would be great. We are also in the midst of putting together a virtual location directory for film producers for Klamath County. And we're realizing that we need photographers. Joyce, I hope you're listening to this. We need photographers to help out with compiling locations all around Klamath County. So I've been going around taking photos, but Court, who should be here, I don't know why Court hasn't joined us, he's working on the directory, and we're realizing that we need help with anyone who has shot interesting locations all around Klamath County, not just Klamath Falls. If we could get those photos or videos, then we can start compiling a virtual directory. That way, filmmakers who are out of town who may be interested in filming in this area, we have a large virtual website that they can go to and just click through to see different potential locations that they can film at. So we're developing demographic data with that and contact info, but we just need people to go around and take photos of different locations as much as possible. We also have vacancies on our board of directors presently. You do not have to live in Klamath Falls to be a board member, but it helps. If you're in the area and if you're interested in what we do as an organization, let me know. And then we every year have to elect new board members for 1-year term positions. We elect 2 positions, and that will take place starting in September. We'll start taking nominations. In October, we will have a vote among the membership. Currently, Nick Alexander and Wayne Sweat are the members who were voted in for 2021. So that term would run from November to November 2022. If you're interested, let me know as a nomination, and I will add you to the list for the vote.
Is he out of the hospital?
Wayne? Yes. From what I know, he is out of the hospital, but he's still in recovery mode from a really bad car accident. So we are in full-on planning mode right now for the Klamath Independent Film Festival. We're a little over a month away, and when I'm not doing this, I'm working what feels like 24/7 on the film festival. We've selected 45 films this year, which is the most we have ever taken for the Klamath Independent Film Festival. We have 6 feature films and almost 40 shorts. And so the schedule breaks down, and Maya, I will send this to you soon. There is our schedule. I know it's kind of small to see, but we will start Friday, September 17th. This year we're bringing back our street festival that we did in 2019, but not last year for obvious reasons. So we're going to have food trucks, a beer garden, live music, giveaways, virtual reality stuff, some games, and then we've added a couple of films that we're going to be showing actually during that street fair that will have a bunch of TVs located all around. So we're going to be showing Project 88 and Strut during that. And then our feature film, the way our festival always works is we show 1 feature film Friday, Saturday is all of our feature films, and then Sunday is all of our shorts. So our feature film Friday night is Meek's Cutoff, which is a Western that was shot in Oregon about a decade ago, directed by Kelly Reichert, who's become quite a name lately. She did First Cow, and she's done a bunch of other films, and she shoots most of her films in Oregon, even though she's based in New York. So it's the 10th anniversary of that film's release. We'll be doing a screening as well as a 10-year anniversary reunion of some of the cast members and some of the crew that were involved with it. The screenwriter has also confirmed that he'll be joining us. Kelly was going to join us, but she's actually going to be filming at that time, so she couldn't. Saturday, we've got a lineup of films. We have a free breakfast for all of our filmmakers. If you have a lanyard for the film festival, you will get free breakfast at the Daily Bagel. And then we've got Love and Dangerous Times, Youth v. Gov, Maxi, Who's on Top, Two Below Zero, and A Hurricane with Fire. Very eclectic films this year. Afterwards, at 8 o'clock that night, we will be doing an after party at Klamath Basin Brewery out on the patio. So good food, good beer. If anyone is interested in joining that, hopefully all of our filmmakers come out for that who are in town. And I've heard from most of the filmmakers are planning to travel to Klamath for this year's festival, which is fantastic. It's great when we can get people down here. And we've actually had a couple of films created as a result of our after party where people met and decided to work on a project together. So hopefully that's a good opportunity for people.
If I were to volunteer on Friday, what time would I have to start?
We start at 5 o'clock on Friday. So if you could be there by like 4:30, we could train you on what you need to do. And then you could help out Friday night, which would be great. We need people to pour beer. We need people to take tickets. We need someone to sell t-shirts. We need someone to run our virtual reality setup inside. And then we'll get to the movie at 7 o'clock. Our screenings on Sunday begin at 10:30 a.m. with our K-12 student category. And then we go through all of our short films, including Maya's film. And then we end with our award ceremony. Now, for those of you who remember last year's festival, we started doing something new and kind of fun, where we had the Southern Cascade Woodcrafters Guild design custom trophies for each of our categories. And they custom carved trophies specific to each of the winning films. So like we had one film last year called The Sandcastle, and so the kid who won it for our K-12 category, their award was a carved wooden castle. And each award will be unique to the winning films. I found out last night. I got all of our awards judges' scores back. So as of last night, I know who won, but it's top secret. So we will have our awards. Sunday night, we should be all done with the festival about 7 o'clock. Tickets are not yet on sale, but they will be going on sale shortly. There are our prices for this year's festival. If you are a Klamath Film member, you get 50% off on tickets. Friday, we will have food trucks at the theater, but unlike in past years where entrance included food, we decided to lower the cost of Friday, and instead, if you want to buy food, you can. Individual days are $20, or a full weekend pass Saturday and Sunday is $35. For all 3 days, it's $50. And if you want to watch the festival online, you can do so for $40. That will provide on-demand access for every single film, as well as exclusive Q&As that we do with each and every filmmaker. We will also do Q&As that we live stream during the festival. But we've actually already recorded a Q&A with Maya, who is on this call with us for her film. So with that, before we delve into introductions, and our featured guest should be joining us shortly, anyone have any projects that they've been working on, or upcoming things that they want to announce, or things going on? I know, Joyce, you just had a big art exhibit that happened. Do you want to talk about how that went?
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm a little bit disappointed. We got very few people to come out. And it's too bad, because I worked on it for the last year and put a lot of money and time into it. And it looked beautiful. I had wonderful comments from the people that did come out. Sales were very low. So I just finally yesterday packed everything up and put it away. Kind of discouraged, but it's not going to stop me from trying again. I just won't do it again out here at Falcon Heights.
Yeah, I think maybe the location was part of the problem. Maybe if you did it at the Klamath Arts Gallery, or some of the other locations that are more like downtown located, you might get better luck.
Right. Well, we are both members of the Klamath Art Gallery, and we will be showing there. Right now, we actually both have pieces on display at the Ross Raglan Theater, which was there for the folk festival. And you were busy, so we didn't speak to you, but we really enjoyed the weekend. It was awesome. I mean, Saturday at the festival. And at some point, we would like to get together with you, Kurt, or talk to you about photographing the festival.
Yeah.
We've got a few questions, but I don't think this is the time for it.
I'm happy to set up a time whenever it's convenient for you to talk about that.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and jump into introductions. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. So, if this is your first time here, this is Klamath Film's monthly meeting. So we always get together on the first Thursday to talk about filmmaking that's happening in the Klamath Basin. And we always have a featured guest join us. And actually our featured guest looks like he's joining right now. So we always have someone from the film industry join us every single month to talk about what they do. So first of all, my name is Kurt Lidke. I'm the executive director of Klamath Film. We are a non-profit. Hey, Steven.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, man. Great to see you again.
Oh, man, likewise.
So we were just getting started on introductions of everybody. So your timing is fantastic. So first of all, my name is Kurt Lidke. I'm the executive director of Klamath Film. We are a nonprofit based here in Klamath Falls that promotes filmmaking, the arts, and education in the Klamath Basin. And I'm also a filmmaker myself and a commercial drone pilot. Yeah, I guess we'll pass it around. David, why don't you introduce yourself? While you have a mouthful of food.
Hi, I'm David Reed. I'm a retired Navy photographer and filmmaker. I'm a part-time actor, prop maker. I've been the vice president of this group, and I've been with the board for several years, currently right now. And here to help and pitch in whenever is needed.
Fantastic. Bowen, why don't you introduce yourself?
I just got this one?
Yeah.
All right. Hello. Hold on, you can't quite see me. It's me. My name is Bowen Browder. I am a somewhat recent graduate of Oregon Institute of Technology. I got a BS in Communication Studies. I'm currently working as an admissions counselor for the same school. I've been a performer of various capacities throughout my entire life, whether it's been dancing or band or music or anything like that. But as of now, I'd call myself an aspiring actor.
Nice.
Fantastic. And Joyce, since we were talking to you earlier, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Joyce Dickens. I'm a local independent photographer and acrylic artist here in Klamath Falls, and happy to be a member of the film.
Great. And Mary Jane, are you with us? Mary Jane? If not, we'll check back in with you a little bit later. Maya, why don't you introduce yourself? Thank you so much for joining us for the first time.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. My name is Maya. I'm in Lake Oswego, Oregon right now, and I recently graduated from Oregon State University. And one of my 2 films that I've created is in the festival this year.
There you go.
Film. So I'm excited about that, but thanks for having me tonight.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I heard Mary Jane a second ago. Mary Jane, are you with us?
Yes, I am. I'm Mary Jane, and we have lived in Klamath Falls for 11 years. Have been involved in Klamath Film Group maybe close to 2 years, maybe 1.5. I don't know. Have 5 sons. Have learned the appreciation of many films through my son, who also loves film, and just nice to be here.
Thank you, Mary Jane. We have a new guest. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, but you want to introduce yourself? Oh, sorry, don't want to knock over the beer.
Hi, I'm Amalea. I just saw on Facebook that Stephen was going to be speaking. I was also at SOU. I met Patrick Russell there and traveled down to San Francisco and studied with him acting until COVID. I'm filming pollinators and starting to add sounds to that. And so I'm really interested in the topic tonight. Thanks for joining us with your topic.
Fantastic. Well, welcome, and thank you for taking part. I know that we have fewer people than usual because it's the first night of our county fair, and also because of all of the wildfire smoke that we're getting from Northern California right now. It's understandable not a lot of people want to come out. It's not our fault. We don't have a fire here, but blame NorCal and all of the prevailing winds sending stuff our way. And so with that, we have a very special guest, a guy who I haven't had a chance to talk to in quite a while, but it's great to see him again. Stephen, I actually have a video to introduce you before we delve into things with you. So
Okay.
Let me cut to that.
Pressure coming, the pass is away. There's a holding call coming up. It's intercepted by Stephen Moore. Back at the 30-yard line. You beat Pate, you beat a good one. Yes, sir. Here's the punt out of there by Finley. Good one. And he comes back to the 39-yard line, coming straight up the middle. It's Stephen Moore. Moore is on his way. It's no flags. Touchdown, Oregon.
Stephen Moore is our returner. He is no Keenan Howard, but he catches the ball well, and that's most important, and he's fearless to run right up the middle.
Getting more and more needy of having help.
Yeah, I am too. So. I mean, I hear a story a day. I can't get away from stories of people who are in deep suffering. And that gets me a little angry. It makes me believe that I've got to see this thing through.
Kings, we follow the American dream, scarfed in red and blue bandanas like white sheets to eliminate blacks. We salute a flag that waves injustice to bring about manifest destiny to our blocks. See, kings, we extend from the Nile to the Mesopotamia, from the Amazon to the Mississippi, but on the East Coast, they pop and lock. See, these bullet shells are way too hot. Here in Cali, we nay-nay on the same concrete. We watch the riots of dying bodies. And for the past 400 years, we have been whipped into midair and still somehow find a way to breathe because we are good at this.
There you go, Stephen. Ever had I know you have a little demo reel on YouTube, but have you ever had anyone make a highlight video for you?
That was pretty cool, man. You made it look real good. I appreciate that.
Well, I absolutely love this guy because every time I've seen him, Stephen has like a perma smile attached to him. He's like the most happy-go-lucky guy I've ever met in my life. But I met Stephen years ago when I was based in LA working as a music supervisor, and I hope I played a little tiny itty-bitty part in you advancing your music career in some way with the advice that I gave. So we wanted to talk tonight about music and the importance that audio has on film, and so I thought you would be a great guest for that, to talk about how music sets the emotional tone in film, how music can manipulate emotion, how music accentuates the action that's being shown, how music composition is done, all of these various topics, and I'm sure people will have questions as well. It's very, very free form, but also I see someone joined us late. Hi, Lori. Are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. We just went through introductions and then showed Steven's intro video. You want to introduce yourself real quick?
Oh, I'm Lori. I've a member of Klamath Film, volunteer, like creative endeavors, write poetry and stuff. Yeah, just a mix of everything, like films as well.
Nice to meet you.
So Steven, beyond my video, do you want to kind of give us the background of how you got into working in music and the film industry, and kind of your whole backstory of where you got to where you're at today?
Oh man, sure. So interesting journey. Let's see. So as you know, I started off, as a student athlete at Oregon, and once that whole career was over, I was even during school, I was, making beats and producing for local artists in LA, and even in Eugene to some degree. And I used to get a lot of I hear a lot of comments saying, "Hey, you should think about TV and media." And at that time, I didn't really, grasp what they were telling me, but they would always say I had an instance in cinematic field to my music, and I should look into it. So I say about 3 years later, I said, "Hey, man, I'll check it out." And I checked out a school in San Francisco, and I enrolled in it, and I studied film composition, got more into orchestration and things of that nature, and I fell in love with it, man. And I got bit by the bug, so here I am.
So how did you get started in working in film composition? What were some of the early projects that you got involved with?
So it started with getting student films while I was in school. That was my big start. So I would tell anybody, you may not necessarily have to go to school, but at least you need to be able to connect with up and coming directors, producers, things of that nature. It's just kind of, start throwing paint against the wall. That's pretty much what I did. And I learned really quick the difference between producing for an artist and making music for a TV and complementing the picture. So, I had to learn that. It took a little while, but I think I got the hang of it a little bit. But I'm always learning. And the reason why I love it is because of the challenges. And it's not about you. You're merely just a tool to direct or producer and bringing the music to life.
So how do you go about composing music for film? Like when you get rough cuts of a film, where do the ideas come from to try to accentuate things? Do you have a sit down with the director, or are you allowed time to just kind of do things on your own? How does that all come together?
So there's different ways. For most of the time, I get the film when it's done. For the most part, maybe 80% done. And what we'll do is we'll have a thing called a spotting session, and which means we'll just sit down for maybe 2 hours and we'll go through the whole film. And the director will say, "Hey, from 1:30 to 1:55, I would like this to be something emotional, heavy, some things like that." So what I'll do is I'll just write everything down, or I'll just have a phone and put it on record and say, "Hey, do you mind I record the conversation just so I can play it back?" So I'll do something like that, and we'll go through the entire film. And a lot of times they give you references too, which helps. I tell a lot of directors, if you can, if possible, try to have references, and regarding the style of music that you like and instrumentation and things of that nature. So that always helps a composer because it just helps us to stay, within the lane and not go all over the place, which sometimes happens. But yeah, we sit down, have a spotting session, go over that for a couple hours, and then I go to the dungeon and try to see what I can do something. That's usually how it goes, man. And then, but it's fun, man. I mean, I say the spotting session is super duper important because it cuts down the time if you can narrow that process out, in the beginning.
We'll open this up to questions from everybody else in just a minute, but I do need to note when Steven and I got together a couple times when I was in LA, I was working as a music supervisor at the time, which meant that my job was to essentially do the finished end of what Steven does, where I would pick out music that would end up in trailers or TV shows, films, stuff like that. And the interaction, Steven, I'm sure this is a big frustration with what you do. Having to translate what directors and producers are hearing in their head into musical language, because I would get sometimes talking to like ad agencies. I swear, one time I had someone call me and say, "I need something that sounds like Yellow," and I had to try to figure out, okay, what does Yellow sound like? What are they trying to describe in their head, but they don't know how to describe? I need beats per minute of this instrumentation and in this style. So how do you go about interpreting what directors are hearing to try to produce the best thing musically?
You know, and when I first, it's funny you say that because even when we got together then, when you were, I wasn't even a TV film yet, you would tell me these things. And I was like, really, really? Then once I got through the process, I was like, oh, that's what you're talking about. So, yeah, it's funny, but usually I was trying to pick out words they say, and like key words, you know, if they say something like emotional, or I'll just try to get them to say more than just Yellow. And what I what I found was I just, hey man, what music do you like? You know, I just asked them like, what do you like? You know what I mean? And they say, oh man, I like this, I like that. I said, okay, cool, send me a link. You know, send me a link of that, and I'll listen. And I say, hey, what do you like about this? Oh, I like the guitar. Ah, okay, that's what you mean by Yellow. Maybe it's the guitar you like. Okay, then you know, things like that. So I try to decipher that, but it takes a while. That takes a skill to be able to do that. It takes practice to kind of be able to transcribe what directors are saying. Some are better than others because some were past musicians, so sometimes they're able to speak a little better as far as music terms. But most of the time, it'd be what you say, Yellow, or you know, just very vague words. It's just like, okay. So I just learned to be able to, you know, dig out certain things, and I say the easiest way is just tell me what you like, what kind of music you like, and then we go from there.
So what does Yellow sound like to you, Steven?
Oh my goodness, Yellow. You know, I think about Tweety Bird, Pharrell, Happy. I don't know. It's a lot of stuff that can go with Yellow. It just depends on who's saying it. But yeah, it's funny, man. You get all kind of things. I mean, I've heard angry. I've heard you know, like Kobe Bryant, or you know, just weird stuff. I'm like, okay, interesting. But I just learned to, if you just find the medium of what they like, you pretty much can find what they're saying. That's how I'm able to decipher it.
Tell us about how you got connected with Netflix, because you're now composing for Netflix films, right?
Yeah. So I've kind of been going back and forth with them for the last 2 years. I'm part of this group. It's called Composer Diversity, and they have like meetups, you know, things of that nature. And we went to Netflix's office on Sunset in Hollywood. So I went there about right before pandemic, and then you know, just meeting different people, networking, and emailing them, keeping up with them. And I did that for about a year and a half, 2 years, just saying, hey, how you doing? Remember me? That kind of thing. So I did that for about a year and a half, kept in contact, and kept putting out content. And you know, they contacted me and said, hey man, we'd like to talk to you, and potential a staff composer. And that's how it came about, man. I did about 3 meetings. They gave me a soft no twice. I just kept at it. And then here I am. So, you know, a little persistent.
We just had a question come through our chat from Lori. Lori asks, you mentioned that it's helpful to have a lane with references from directors. Does having a lane ever hinder the creative process for you? Such as, have you disagreed from a director about the music selection for a scene? And if so, what did you do?
It's been times where, yeah, to answer the quick yes. I won't say hinder. The only part that could be hindering is at least in the beginning of my career was um, creatively, if what they're saying you don't feel like it doesn't work. I've learned to just do it, to be honest, and I've learned to kind of massage what I'm doing to, if you want to say a sneaky way of putting in your influence, in a way to where they're like, oh, that's exactly what I was saying. It's like a psychological thing. Sometimes you kind of learn how to put it in there. But as far as having the lane hinder your creative process, I would say no, because it helps the palette as far as sound palette for a film, and each film has a sound palette. So if I say, hey, this film we want to use acoustic guitar and strings, and that's the sound palette, then a lot of times it's kind of liberating, because you don't have to think so much. You kind of know what you're doing, and you can kind of just attack it, fairly quickly. So it's a lot harder when you have too many options. I would say that sometimes too many options makes it harder to choose.
So this is a great opportunity to learn about, as a filmmaker myself, when I first started making films, audio was initially largely an afterthought. Like I had to think about, like, what scenes do I want, what shots do I want, how do I want to coordinate all this, and after the fact I would think, okay, now I'll figure out audio that works for it. As I've gotten more into filmmaking, I go with audio first, because I use audio to set whatever emotional tone I'm going to use, and then I edit to the audio. So whenever, like, there's a downbeat, that's where I'm making my cuts in the film, so that they all sync up. And the hope is that the audio and the picture all align, so that when you have an audience watching what you're making, they all intersect, they all connect, and they all feed off each other, so people are just enjoying the overall experience. If you have audio that clashes with the imagery, you take people out of the experience, and all of a sudden they're thinking about that audio feels wrong. I'm not sure what's going on there. Did I actually share the screen or something, or?
No, I'm afraid I did. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get my video on.
Okay.
I didn't mean to mess you up. I apologize.
No worries.
Your video is on now.
Yes.
So you're good. You can just, all you have to do is just stop screen sharing.
Your picture is on, so you can stop screen sharing. I thought that was me. There we go. Okay, that's good. We can see you now. Hello again.
Okay.
But it is so important that there's a symbiotic relationship between the music and the sound effects in a film and the visuals. And if they're all working together, that's what makes a great scene. If they're clashing, it's what can destroy a project. And I found, especially when I was a music supervisor in LA, I found nothing destroys a project faster than having the wrong piece of music connected to a scene. It can destroy, from a short commercial to an entire feature film, it takes your audience out of it. It's so vitally important that they all kind of work in sync. So, Stephen, can you talk a little bit about how you approach trying to find the right music that fits the right emotional tone for a scene, and how music can I feel like the music and the audio is what actually sets the emotional tone for a scene entirely, and whatever is being shown visually just feeds off of whatever the audio is. So how do you go about working on that?
You keep taking my questions, Kurt.
Give us a chance to ask some questions.
He's grabbing them up. I say what helps a lot of times, this, Kurt, because I'm sure you've done this 1,000 times. Some composers have a problem with temp tracks. Temp tracks are placeholders in music that, let's say a director has a film, and let's say you don't have a composer yet, and you have music you like, and you place it in scenes, like, ooh, I kind of like the vibe of this in this scene. You just take cuts of audio and put it in and place it in scenes. And so a director would come to me with temp tracks playing. So like you said, like on the downbeat, you do with the audio. You let's say, for example, use a temp track, you place that on the downbeat to a place that you like the example you gave. And a lot of times I go off that. And that helps tremendously Or, like I said, with the spotted session, that's usually how that goes. You know, they're pretty much, an open map for you and, basically tell you when they wanted to come in. Um, audio is very interesting in the sense of when you talk about sound effects. I had to learn that you have to be very careful when composing around dialogue, sound effects. A lot of times, less is more. Is what I've learned. Sometimes less is more, and you just gotta kind of navigate and figure that out. And so, for example, how do I pick music to go with scenes in the dialogue scene? I should try to do things that doesn't get in the way. Maybe soft instruments, piano, maybe some drone, things of that nature. Depends on what's going on, and that determines a lot. Now, if it's just a straight chase scene, you probably can have a little more fun and do some more things. But dialogue is a whole other ballgame for sure.
Okay. Does anyone have questions for Steven that they want to talk about?
Yeah, I do. Talk about the types of music. Do you only do the background instrumental music, or do you ever have to compose the original song for a movie?
Oh, great question. Because those are two different things. There's been times where I had one film, Cage, I did both. I did original like hip hop beats, and I did original score. I mean, I've done both. The only difference is with the songs, they kind of just tell you, hey, we want something that's a little bouncy. A song like, I don't know, like Common and or Mary J. Blige or something like that. It's pretty much the same process, but making songs a little easier because I started off that way. The score is where I had to really hone in the craft, and still am to this very day. But that's the thing that I had to really kind of understand the background music and how that can affect it, because a lot of composers say when it doesn't distract you, that's when it's good. It's just almost like if it doesn't bother you, it's good. So you're not even paying attention. Subconsciously, you hear the music.
So they're feeling the mood.
It's so well, you're not even paying attention. But when it's bad, I mean, you hear it immediately. And just like Kurt said, it's a disaster from there on.
Well, you also mentioned the music palette. Is it easier when the director says, I want this type of instruments for the music? Or a lot of times do you have to figure out what type of instruments is going to work with that?
It's definitely easier if the director knows. But I say it's 50-50, and when they don't know, we just have conversations, and I say, hey, again, what kind of music you like? Do you like guitar? Do you like the clarinet? Do you like the oboe, violin?
If you want something exotic, do you have to contract out for somebody else?
I'm sorry?
If there's an instrument that's exotic, do you have to contract some other artists to come in and do those parts?
Yeah, definitely, because that's a very good question. Because you want it to be authentic and authentic as possible. You don't want to fake it. For example, if it's a film that wants Polish music and I get hired for that, I'm not a Polish player by no means. So I have to bring in someone of Polish background and say, hey, they kind of educate me on the different musical structures of Polish music, or folk music, that kind of thing. And I've done that all the time, and it's fun. I love working with musicians. It's another way to learn another genre. And that's another reason why I love composing, because you get a chance to touch different worlds. It's pretty cool.
So you develop a data bank of different artists for different categories.
Exactly. And then you get to the point where, because you're listening to things that I would never listen to if I wasn't, somebody to tell me, hey, listen to this person. I'm like, man, this is kind of cool. I want to listen to this if it wasn't for this film, And then you kind of take music vocabulary from those people and kind of incorporate to your own.
In LA, there's a big industry called music library, and that's actually where I worked. And unless you're involved in library, you don't really know it even exists. But essentially, think of my role as being a librarian for audio tracks. It's thousands upon thousands of recordings of everything you could imagine, where the company's whole goal is to say, okay, let's think of anything we don't have and make sure that we record that. And then whatever music is trending right now, let's make things that sound similar to that, because probably ad agencies are going to be asking for that in commercials. So I would get calls from, say, Warner Brothers or like an ad agency, and they'd say, we're working on an ad, we need, I don't know, Zimbabwean folk music. And I would say, here's 5 tracks from our library right now of Zimbabwean folk music. Do you want something with or without drums? Do you want it with vocals, without vocals? Do you just want, and if they like the track, if they use it, then they would license it and pay out a fee for use in the commercial or the TV show or the film or whatever.
Is that almost similar to like prop warehouses?
Very, very much so, yeah. It's paying for the rights to use it. And so prop houses or costume houses collect everything they can possibly imagine, so that when a production comes up and says, we need Civil War costumes and a prop cannon and a tent, they can say, well, here's a couple of different options that we have. And the same thing happens with audio, where like the stuff that Steven does, so Steven may be hired out to do a full-on composition for a film, but sometimes film productions or even video games will do a blanket license with these libraries where they're able to just pull a whole bunch of tracks from the collection, and that's what ends up being in things. Also, they do a lot of what's called sound-alikes, where if there's a song that's really popular, a couple months later you'll start hearing like something that sounds really reminiscent of that song. Like you're hearing like that sounds like it, but it's not quite that. It's an original composition that is similar to it, because maybe I don't know, if you're talking about like Nike, they have the money to pay for the original song, but if you're talking about like a local car dealership doing a TV ad, they're not going to be able to afford paying, an insert major pop star here. But a library, people like Steven will record songs that are reminiscent of that hit, so that if they come to Steven and say, we're working on this ad and we want a song that sounds like this, but there's no way we can afford the $40,000 it'll take to buy the rights to use this song from, I don't know, Taylor Swift. Well, Steven will go off and say, okay, let me write a song that sounds like the new Taylor Swift song.
But doesn't infringe copyright.
Yeah, it's close enough to be reminiscent, but not too close to infringe on copyright. And so there's all these libraries that have these sound-alike tracks where sometimes you'll be watching a show and you're like, that sounds like Coldplay, but that doesn't quite sound like Coldplay. It almost sounds like Coldplay. Do I know that song or what? So
this library, do they pay like a retainer for like a blanket thing, so we're using this much amount, and we pay that one fee, we get whatever you want?
Yeah, so they structure it with what's called needle drops, which are a one-time use. And they also have blanket fees where you pay a flat rate and you can use either X amount of tracks, or you can use as many tracks as you need for this project. Or they'll have a blanket license that say for a year or maybe 2 or 3 years, you can pull anything that you want from this library, and we'll just constantly add to it. And then if you need custom compositions because you're asking for something really specific or really obscure, then they'll have people on staff like Steven who can go off and I'm sure you get contacted by libraries from time to time, Steven, that say, hey, we need something that sounds like I don't know, Holiday Road, because someone's doing like a National Lampoon's Vacation spoof for like a hotel, and we don't have anything in our library that sounds like this. So can you go off and write something like it, right?
Yep, exactly. That's exactly. And it cuts costs for them, like Kurt said. And I mean, rather than pay $40,000, they have no problem paying you, $5 to $10,000, whatever that number is, And a lot of times that happens. And I was very self-conscious about that in the beginning because, coming from the urban world where it was taboo to even remotely get close to someone else's originality, right? It was so taboo. And then when I got in the film world, I'm like, oh man, this is like normal. Like, okay, this is cool. And what people did was, they'll do things like they'll just change the key. They'll do things like little tricks like that. If the original was in C major, they'll go to A flat or something like that, and they'll change a couple notes. And it's little tricks that composers have, that I've kind of learned and see how they did it without getting that copyright strike.
Yeah. Now, another question about when finding the music, and either your director has some notes or none at all and has no idea. When you're trying to find it and it's not coming right away easily with the notes he's giving you, do you play the whole movie to try to get a feel for it? You ever come to that, or you just center on the notes on specific parts of the movie, or do you ever have to watch the whole thing to figure out where that would fit?
As far as watching the whole movie,
yeah.
Oh man, when I first get the film, I watch the movie probably, I'll say at least 30 times before seriously, I watched it. I mean, a lot. I watch a lot to where almost like I memorize the movements. I memorize the pace. I memorize. I just kind of have a feel for it. So when I go to my computer or my keyboard or piano, and I'm just sketching out ideas, I have the scenes so ingrained in my brain that I kind of can write without really looking at it. Because sometimes when I first started, and I'll get a film, I just put the film up and I'll just look at it and but it didn't come so natural.
Have you ever tried?
Learn the film so well that you can write a little easier and come a little more natural.
Great. Let's see if someone else has questions first. And also we have a couple new people who just joined us late. Art, hello Art. And I'm sorry, sir.
John Skedstead.
John, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? This is the Klamath Film meeting. I think this is your first time joining, right?
Well, I've been here a few times before online, but and I'm a member actually.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I find that I'm more in the music vein, so but I'm not, haven't really done much. It's just that, so I am interested to hear what you have to say. So.
Well, welcome. Thank you for coming. And then let's give Art a chance to introduce himself as well. Can we pass the mic his way?
Hi, this is Art. No big introduction. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, though.
For anyone who hasn't had a chance to ask a question yet, do you have something either for our folks online or those of us who are here? A question for Stephen?
I had a fair amount of questions once this started, but I've just been getting more and more as I've been listening more. Somewhat tangential to what you were just answering is, have you implemented like leitmotifs before?
Oh yeah.
And is that a big part of it, or is it more sometimes where when you're working on a movie, does a director or a producer ever want it to be like somewhat of a leitmotif, but actually want it to be like different and up and down throughout the entire movie? I guess just how common is it to have leitmotifs in different projects?
It's funny you asked. That's a great question. Nowadays, a lot of directors don't really want crazy melodies. I know that sounds crazy. A lot of it, they'll say less notes, or that's too melodic, or you know what I mean. But I think now we're getting back to that, having more motifs and themes, and because I'm a big fan of Michael Giacchino. And he's a really theme kind of guy, and I try to pattern myself like that. And leitmotifs to me helps you. And to answer your question, directors do ask for that quite a bit, but there's been times where they don't want melody at all also. But when you do have leitmotifs, you're able to, it's different composer tricks. You can, like I said, you can change the key on the next scene to give it a more melancholic feel, or you can change the time signature. You can go from 4/4 to 3/4 to things like that. And those are different ways that you can change the motif to where you can have it not sound the same throughout the film. That can kind of still, at the end of the day, it still has that continuity. You still hear that same thing.
That's kind of the other thing that I was curious about, because it might be a struggle sometimes, I would assume, to find some sort of melodic line or just phrase that can be used that is versatile enough that you can apply it to somewhat different genres.
Right.
And I guess a kind of a similar thing to that is, are there any differences in between like doing something for like bigger pictures compared to like indie films? I would assume indie films are like, they don't really care so much about having leitmotifs, or depending on how weird the film is.
I don't. For me, I haven't had any differences thus far. I approach them all with the same mentality. I don't think they're not less serious about it just because it might not be a feature film or or if it's independent. If anything, when it's independent, I think the music is probably there's more stress on the music because I mean either way the music can make or break what you're doing. And so a lot of times I don't see a difference. It's pretty much the same, at least in my experience.
Okay.
But life motifs, I love them, man. Melodies, I love them. I think we're starting to get back to that before, like a couple, like 10 plus years ago. It was a lot of, people like that John Williams kind of thing or big orchestras, but, with budgets and things like that. It's not happening as much. But I think it's coming back. From what I've seen, it's coming back.
How about for folks online, either Joyce or Mary Jane, Lori or Maya? Do you have questions for Stephen?
Lori had a question.
Stephen, I really have enjoyed listening to you. I'm wondering if working in the field of music has had any effect on your mental and physical health over a period of time.
Great question. You know what? A little, yes.
Good to hear.
less sleep for sure, but I've learned to balance myself. I had to really learn that. In the beginning, I would just go crazy hours straight, not really sleeping, and I wasn't really effective. And I found that the better I balanced it, the more energy I had. So I did that, and eating different helped me a lot, and proper rest. But I had to learn that because, Kurt knows it's long hours, and a lot of those, and with ad agencies, the music is a quick turnaround. They say, hey, can you do this and sometimes it's a day, sometimes it's 2 days, sometimes it's a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And it could be, they can email you at, 12 in the morning, or 3 in the morning East Coast time or something, and say, hey, can you have this by 3? And it's like, whoa.
Is the job kind of a magic wand?
Like, okay.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's like that, but I've learned to balance it. It's definitely balance sometimes.
That is very legit. When I was a music supervisor, sometimes I would get an email or a call saying, we need tracks in half an hour. But if it's Warner Brothers or Universal or Nike saying we need tracks in half an hour, you better deliver tracks in half an hour because there's a lot of money involved. So for our other, I see Lori posted a question in the chat again. Lori asked, are there any directors that you really enjoy working with or want to work with because of their typical sound palette?
Oh man, there's tons. I love Quentin Tarantino. I like Quentin Tarantino. He's really cool. I love to work with him one day. Spike Lee, Ryan Coogler. There's so many. Abrams. Oh man, there's so many. And the directors I've worked with so far has been awesome. I'm just happy to be able to work with anybody. I'm not in a position to be too picky, so I'm just happy.
Well, just one quick question. I mean, are they coming after you for a specific type of music, like your hip hop stuff, or are they coming to you for all kinds, or willing to have you kind of expand your palette as you wish?
Up to this point in my career, I've gotten calls from urban hip hop stuff on one end all the way to orchestral. So it's pretty wide range, man. I've been pretty lucky. I haven't been too pigeonholed yet. I would love to do some like electronic stuff too. I haven't really done that yet. That would be pretty fun. So yeah.
Maybe Maya or Mary Jane or Art or Amalea, since you haven't had a chance to talk. Anyone have a question for Stephen?
I have a comment over here.
Sure.
I'm Joyce's partner.
Hang on. I think we just lost Stephen for a second there. His iPhone cut out. We'll give it a minute to see if he comes back in. I mean, if there's a question that I can possibly answer, I'll be happy to. But I assume you want to ask it to Stephen.
proceeding, I just joined yesterday, and regarding the previous question about working with directors, as a photographer of long-form documentaries, I didn't have a lot to do with music. However, back in the dark ages, I did work as a technical director on a shoot at a jazz club in San Francisco called Earthquake Lagoons.
Okay.
The head man there was Kirk Murphy. And during the first set, it was clear that the director I was working with couldn't find her ears with both hands, and I attempted to usurp her commands by switching either before or after her calls, significantly before or after her calls. The first set, she tried to throw me off the show. Fortunately, my supervisor gave me the option to stay, and I chose to stay. Much better than the first in terms of what the director was trying to do. However, once the program aired, she received a letter from Kirk Murphy saying that it was the best television show he had ever been on, and ultimately she won an Emmy and I was fired.
Wow.
Hey, ultimately led me to Los Angeles, where I started doing documentaries.
Okay. Yeah, the film industry is an interesting one, and I've learned to. It's just a lot of egos involved, to be honest, and you got to learn how to maneuver in the jungle. I guess that's the best way to explain it. Just learning how to maneuver, and because it's a lot of egos, and you just got to kind of know how to sit in that room.
What Stephen is talking? Yeah, what Stephen is talking about right there is the reason why I'm in Klamath Falls and not in LA right now.
It's no joke. It's no joke.
I got a question. Stephen, do you ever use tracks from other movies to play against it to see how it feels, to give you an idea how to do the music you're going to work on?
Great question. Yes, I have. I do it. I simply do it. When, let's say, when I'm stuck or I just have a kind of a block and I don't really know where to go, and that's another way of doing temp tracks. That's just another way of doing temp tracks. Just if I don't, like you said, if I don't have an idea, or I'm just kind of like, let me just throw paint against the wall, and I'll just put things together. And then all you need is one spark. You just need one light to say, oh, I got it, and then they'll just start coming to you. So that always helps too. I have done that.
I want to make sure that those who haven't had a chance to ask questions yet can. So either, am I saying it right, Amalea or, okay, so Amalea or Art or Maya or Mary Jane. We should also point out Maya here has a film in this year's Klamath Independent Film Festival, September 17th through the 19th.
Congrats.
She made a film called After the Burn. Do you want to explain a little bit about what your film is about, and if you have something about that you want to ask Stephen, or just talk about music in general and how to use it in film?
Yeah, sure. So my little short film is about using oyster mushrooms to clean up after forest fire events.
Oh, wow.
So myco-remediation, pretty much just the use of that. And, since forest fires have obviously been happening a lot in the West Coast recently. So it just showcases a little bit about that and interviews a couple of the researchers who are working on that. But,
Awesome. Congratulations too, and by the way, it's not little. There's nothing little about the film. It's big.
Yeah.
Short film or not, it's big. Congratulations too. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm excited about it.
So Maya, we selected 45 films for this year's Klamath Independent Film Festival, and for those who don't know, we are the only film festival in the country that exclusively takes made in Oregon films. So,
Nice.
Maya is one of our 45 films that made it into this year's festival in September. Maya, do you have any questions for Stephen as far as audio or using audio in film, or maybe how you can better learn how to incorporate music into your film projects?
Yeah, sure. Well, something I've thought of with just the short film that I've worked on is something my mentor was saying was not to rely fully on the music to, you know, like make the scene what it is. So maybe you could talk about that and your experience with that.
Oh, sure. So the mentor is absolutely correct, because a lot of times, at least in the beginning of my career being in school, there'll be times where you get a film and let's say the scene is not oh so good, but they put the pressure on the composer to make it better, and sometimes the music can't save it. That's basically what your mentor is saying. So it's very important to always have the mentality that I'm not going to rely on the music to make the scene better. I'm going to make this scene the best that it can stand out on its own, and that the music's only there to complement it and to just, you know, maybe raise the bar a little bit. But the music is not technically supposed to just make it just grand. You know, the music is supposed to complement what you're doing. So great, your mentor is right on point. You know, just have the mentality that, hey, I'm not going to rely on the music to make it better. I'm going to get it totally all the way right with the scene, and have the music just kind of, you know, just kind of bring the scene a little bit up and ride the momentum. Absolutely.
When I always think about music for film, I first think about mood rather than genre. Like, what emotion am I trying to drive? You may absolutely love a particular song that you want to try to fit, but if it doesn't fit with the scene, it's going to destroy the scene. So it's always first thinking about what kind of emotion are you trying to convey in this scene, whether it's happy, sad, anxious, nervous, and then try to fit the music around that emotional tone that you're trying to make your audience feel, first and foremost. At least that was always the approach I took with music supervision and in the films that I make. And Stephen, I'm sure from your side of things of creating music for it, that's one of the key factors in talking to directors, is figuring out what are they trying to make the audience feel, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the name of the game as a composer. You know, it's basically you translating emotions into music. So, you know, like I said, those sit downs are very important, and that's why I always ask them, what do you feel? You know, what does it feel like to you? And they say, hey, I want it to be happy. I want it to be melancholy. I want it to be, you know, whatever words they use. I just try to make sure that I, you know, write that down. And when I sit at the piano and do things, you know, I'm trying to see how do I feel while I'm playing. And that helps me out too, you know. So, or I'll get a track like you said and put it against the picture and see how that feels. Or I'll listen to or watch movies that maybe be close to emotionally what the director's asking for, and see how that composer approached that. And either piggyback or kind of see, oh, okay, maybe I can use this with this. So it's always important in the emotional part, because that's the whole film, man. And if you know, I don't know if you guys have ever, you know, we did this in school. You know, we had a scene with no music. I think it was the movie Birds. We used Birds. I forgot what year that was. The movie Birds.
63, I think. When Alfred Hitchcock's Birds came out. I want to say 62 or 63.
62, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would you know, we'll do exercises where we'll write music emotionally one way, and then do it another way, and then do it another way. We'll do it like 4 different ways, and it's totally different emotional responses. And you just see like, wow, that's crazy how it can change the mood of the scene. And it's the same, you know, it's interesting. So
yeah,
I always keep that in the back of my mind as a composer.
We actually Klamath Film just finished teaching a film camp, actually 2 film camps. We did one for Oregon Tech students, teaching them mainly drone operations, and one for middle school and high school kids here in Klamath. And we did an exercise of that for the college kids, where we took a really upbeat, happy promotional video that had been made for an organization here in town with the original music, and then we changed nothing on the video, but we swapped in just a piece that we found in a library through a random search of the most kind of avant-garde, weird, jazz-ish type piece that we could fit, and overlaid that on the video. And it turned this super happy video into like a sadistic, bizarre, like nightmare-inducing fuel video all about how disturbing Klamath Falls is as a town. But there was nothing changed in the visuals. It was just a change in the audio, and it completely changed the entire tone of the entire video. It shows just how important music is as far as setting that emotional tone of what you want people to feel.
Yep. Absolutely. 100% on the money.
Yeah.
So what kind of projects are coming to you as far as types of films, and how are people finding you? So word of mouth, or?
So the type of films that I'm getting my way most recently, I'm getting a lot of ad stuff from Netflix, promos, teasers, trailers, and original content stuff. As far as how I'm getting, prior to Netflix, a lot of it was just word of mouth, man, and people just seeing films that I worked on in festivals. That always helps when you have things in festivals, and people, they kind of see your name, and the more you do, the more they see that name, people start inquiring about you. You start getting random emails, and a lot of that, just working on short films, doing my own personal projects, and just continue to put out content, and that's what I try to do, man, and try to keep that demand up. And it's worked so far, man. It's really no magic wand. It's just kind of just working, and it kind of happens sometimes.
All right, thank you.
I want to make sure people who haven't had a chance to ask things yet. So, Mary Jane, do you have a question, or Art, or Amalea? No? Oh, okay. There's a mic right there for you.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Good hands.
Thanks.
You did you play football in college?
I played a little football. I did. Powder puff. Yeah, Maya, congratulations. I'm really excited about your topic. And okay, can you hear me?
Oh, I hear you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And Stephen, are you still available for little films, like little environmental films with bees, with electronic music, or how do we reach you? How do we email you?
Yeah, I have my email, StephenLamar.Moore@gmail.com. StevенLamar.Moore MOORE@gmail.com. And yes, I'm available. And then, like, again, there's no such thing as little. There's no such thing as little. We're all big here. We all start somewhere. And I'm excited as whether it's a Netflix project or an independent project. I treat them all the same, and I have respect for them all. So, and I'm open too. So, yeah, that's my email. You can email me, and we can work it out.
Yep. Yeah, see, Steven's very, very accessible. He's a good guy. I have nothing but good things to say about this guy. Hell of a football player, too, at the University of Oregon, with all apologies to our recent Oregon State grad who is on this call.
I was thinking about that, too. I wasn't going to say it.
And in fact, I should mention, I didn't intend this to happen. It's just the way schedules worked out. We had one of your teammates as last month's special guest. Eric Nicolaizen, who now does a lot of acting.
That's my guy.
Yeah. he was our guest for our July meeting. So Eric was on here last month.
Nice. He did some really awesome national spots, man. The Super Bowl spot, I remember that. He did a lot of great stuff, man. He's cool. He's super cool.
Yep.
Love him.
He's if you remember a few years back, there was a commercial that ran during the Super Bowl about this white guy from Toronto who's speaking like he's Jamaican. And that was Eric. It was a car ad. It was really funny, I thought, but it caused a lot of controversy. But I think it was a Volkswagen ad about just like being happy and enjoying the good vibes, and because this guy bought a Volkswagen, suddenly he's like feeling like he's like in full on reggae culture. So it was funny. Other questions, David or whoever? Yeah.
Who in the movie music industry does the job that you do that really stands out outside of John Williams and Jerry Goldsmith and Elmer Bernstein? Who stands out and why does their reputation precede them? What is it about them that it makes them so special? And are you striving to go that way, or go in your own direction in that way?
Okay, great question. So the guys, besides the names you mentioned that I aspire or try to pattern my career, is Michael Giacchino, James Newton Howard, Terrence Blanchard. Who else? There's tons. Oh my goodness, Quincy Jones. There's a lot of composers, and I get a little bit from each of those guys.
Is it because of
in particular?
Is it because they're innovative?
Is his orchestrator, and a lot of music he actually let me, see his score and see what he's doing, and just the precision and the clarity in their music is what I strive to get to. You know what I mean? Just being really clear with your ideas, and that just comes with time and getting better at it. And for me, I want to get better at orchestration. And so a lot of those guys are really, really, really good orchestrators. Well, they have orchestrators, but they start off doing it themselves too. And I try to pattern myself in that way. But at the same time, as a composer, it's always great to have your own voice and your own, everybody just have their creative mojo. And I just think that's important to keep your originality. But at the same time, learn from the greats. And I try to do that as much as possible.
One more question. What's the hardest type of movie to compose for? Or doesn't really matter?
Man. I would say comedy.
Comedy.
Probably the toughest. Comedy was, and I did one. The recent one I did was Standoff. That was the recent. It was like a dark comedy. That one was the toughest one to do because it's just something about comedy. It's just not easy, man. I found myself just watching a lot of comedy movies and trying to, understand what they're doing and really how to place the music. So I would say that's the toughest for me. Maybe the easiest is maybe horror.
Oh yeah.
A thriller. That might be the easiest, at least for me, maybe. But it's fun because you get to do a lot of sound design and weird sounds and just, weird things like that. So I guess on one end, the easiest route is thriller and the hardest for me is comedy, for sure.
Well, you're trying to do a comedy. There's like slapstick or running around. Do you hear the Benny Hill song in your head?
I mean, it's because comedy is interesting. You never really know. It's because you have like slapstick stuff. If you want to think back, a little, time before, and then it's a lot of pizzicato strings, but sometimes people don't want to be so generic, and they want to go a little bit left or right with it. But I would say I had my most versions on that one. What I mean by that is, Kurt knows what this is, man. I mean, that you look on your session or your file and you'd be on version 50. He's like, oh my God, this is the 50th one. This is crazy. But it's fun, man. It's definitely not easy. It's one of the toughest I've had to deal with. Comedy is not easy. I respect those composers who do it consistently. I'll say that.
Yeah. Any other questions? Bowen.
Yeah. Kind of the opposite of a question that was asked earlier is, are there any kinds of specific film projects that you haven't worked on before that you'd really like to work on at least some point in the future, or just have you ever thought about anything you might want to work on in the future, if possible?
I would like I said, electronic. I don't know if you guys remember the movie Tron.
Oh yeah.
That'd be like fun music to do, like Tron or like Stranger Things. kind of electronic kind of things like that. I haven't really done yet. That would be kind of fun to do. I haven't done that yet.
That honestly segues really into a different question I had. It was specifically since you were interested in electronic music. It's fun that you bring up Tron because I'm a little bit of a synth person myself too.
Nice.
So it's always fun to see that sort of specific, like that niche subgenre be seen in cinema more, and I think it could be. So it's just fun to see it's nice to see someone else who's interested in doing it.
Oh yeah, and actually, the electronic film music is actually it's grown a lot more the last 5 to 10 years, man. It's been a lot of requests for that. I think Stranger Things I think that score is awesome. I love listening to that. And Tron, I mean, I think it's great. I would love to do that. Haven't touched that yet, but
hopefully.
Definitely been a lot more of that going on.
I think we're kind of hitting peak 80s, 90s nostalgia right now, anyway, because it's usually about 20, 30 years afterwards. I mean, yeah.
Because also, I'm also a big like cyberpunk aesthetics fan too, just genre-wise, whether it's music or movies too, and that's always something that I'd never think there's too much of it.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean, here's the thing. When things like that are kind of we have a film like that requires something like that, I think it's really fun because it's something that's not done all the time. And as a composer, when you have a gig like that, you can kind of be a little more expressive. You can kind of test the waters a little bit. And that's always fun because a lot of times you're not able to test the waters because the director wants you to kind of stay, within the parameters of what they want. So when you're able to just go wild and free, man, I mean, it's just pretty cool because you don't get that option too many times.
Are there, would you say there might be any differences or any just differences you could anticipate about maybe working in like animation as opposed to live action?
Oh man, I'm a big fan of animation. I would love to do that too. That's another big one I love to do because, I love The Incredibles and what's the little guy, the little yellow guys?
Minions?
The Minions. Yeah, it slipped my mind. The Minions. I love that stuff, man. In and Out. Soul recently is pretty cool. I love all that kind of stuff, man. And animation is not an easy one either. It takes a little longer. And because of the process of film, I did one animation. And here's the thing, I did it in school. We worked on it for a year and a half. And it was only 3 minutes long. So, and that made me realize, like, whoa, that's why these Pixar movies take like 4 years. By the time it gets to us, it's been 4 or 5 years since they've been working on it, which is crazy. I never knew it was that much in depth.
Well, and from a sound perspective, when you're working with animation, there's no base audio. Like if you're filming live scenes, there's going to be ambient sounds and background and whatnot that you can incorporate. So it's not just the music, but also Foley artists are getting involved in sound effects. Have you ever? I've always thought that Foley would be one of the most fun jobs to do in the film industry. For those who don't know, Foley artists are basically people who just create sound effects on a soundstage all day. So they'll have rough cuts and say, like, I don't know, if it's a commercial of someone walking a dog, they'll try to figure out how to replicate the sound of a dog's nails on concrete as it walks. So maybe they'll have like a slab in a studio with a mic real close, and they'll have like maybe Lee press on nails or something, or like anytime you watch a Marvel movie, all of the hits and kicks are people like breaking celery in front of a microphone, or like shaking chains, or all, just coming up with the craziest things to create a sound. In the course of composition, have you ever gone like super experimental with stuff where you were asked to do like Foley type things, or no?
A little bit, but more on the sound design side than the Foley side. But it kind of intertwines because even with the Foley things, you can take that audio and you can distort it. You can do so many weird things with it depending on what they're asking for. But I have been involved with the Foley, not as a composer, but just as let's say a Foley assistant person just helping out. But that process is pretty cool, man. And you kind of wonder, if you want to get a sound of somebody, stepping in ice and water, you imagine what kind of sounds you can record, just whoosh, or a wet towel with the, stepping on something. It's just kind of cool to see how they go about that. And I think as a composer, it's important to kind of put yourself in different departments because you kind of get a grand understanding of how films are put together, and that kind of helps you out when you're composing too, because you have a respect for what everybody does, and I think overall it helps you out in the long run.
Steven, when you're working on a job and you got a track and the director's kind of vague, do you ever have like a backup one in case he wants to go in a different direction?
That's a great question.
Yes, always have a plan B.
Yes, and you know what I do a lot of times. What I do is I'll say, hey, man, I'm gonna put together like a small a short suite, you know, maybe a 3-minute suite or something, or a minute suite of just some ideas, you know, and I'll just email it to him, and I might do 5 to 10 of them. You know, and out of those 10, he might say, "Hey, number 5, I like that direction. Let's go there." And then from there, we just go on and roll out. So, a lot of times I'll do that with directors. If they don't have an idea, I say, "Hey, man, I'll just do a couple suites, and you know, when you find a moment you really like, let's talk about it, and we can build on that." You know, that's another way to do it that some composers find that's helpful. And a lot of times when you do that, that suite end up being in the movie or being in the film. It's funny how it works sometimes like that.
Yeah. Mary Jane and Art, neither of you have had a question or had a chance to ask a question yet. Art, did you have anything? Mary Jane, do you have anything that you want to ask? No? No? Okay. How about for those online, Lori or Maya or Joyce, anything else that you wanted to ask?
I've got one thing, and I think Stephen answered it. It came to my mind about 5 minutes ago or before this last conversation, but I was going to ask you, do you really enjoy your job, or is it just a paycheck? And I know the answer from that big grin on your face. I can tell that you really enjoy what you do.
Oh, well, I definitely do, and you have to, because there's times where it can get ugly, you know. It's like with any job, you know, you gotta love it. It's a lot easier when you do, because when you need to go deep and keep going, you know, you have that fundamental thing that, you know, it makes me feel good, and I like making other people feel good, and you know, I enjoy it. So, because there's times you know, you're not going to sleep, and sometimes you might not get the call you want. You might have a nice little drought. It might be 3 months of nothing, and then 3 months of everything. You know, it's just kind of one of those deals where you stay with it, and if you love it, you know, it helps you propel those, you know, go through those dark times. And I've always tell people, if you love it, it makes it a lot easier.
Definitely. Keep going that direction.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Stephen, on the bigger productions, are you still doing one-to-one with the director, or do you have like on a bigger production, do you got somebody in between them, like an assistant director or executive producer or producer who wants to weigh in on something, and you got to deal with those multiple layers just to be able to talk to the director what you're trying to do?
Great question. So with bigger productions, Kurt knows this too, that there'll be times with Kurt as a music supervisor, he's the one that's relaying the message to the composer. Sometimes it's the music supervisor, sometimes it's the producer, and you might not talk to the director at all. Maybe it's just the producer that you're kind of bouncing ideas with, because maybe the director, he's probably too busy, he don't really want to talk music talk. Some directors don't even care to talk music talk, they'd rather leave it to someone. And you have some directors who are a little more hands-on, and you know, they like to get their hands dirty as far as that's concerned. But I mean, bigger productions though, I would say I deal with a lot of the music editors. That's the big one. Music editors, music supervisors, and producers. I usually only see directors right after I get the gig and we talk about what's going on. And then, okay, when it's time to turn in stuff, I'll talk to them. And when it's time for notes. And for the most part, on a day-to-day with bigger productions, I'm talking to the music editor, supervisor, and producer for the most part.
Okay.
And the music editor is your friend. The music editor is your friend as a composer. Big friend. Big friend. They make life so much easier.
Mary Jane, sounded like you had a question?
Yeah, just a quick one. Do you personally have need of musicians to help you do things that you might not know, like playing an instrument or whatever that you don't personally do? Do you have need of musicians?
Oh, I'm always open to musicians. I use cello players all the time, violin players, flute. I'm always in need of musicians. So, and I love working with them, and it's so much fun because I'm able to bounce off ideas off of them. And when I first started, I wasn't very, and I'm still learning as far as writing for particular instruments. And it's always good to say, hey, violin guy, is what I'm doing make sense? Does this look right on paper? Hey man, that looks like crap. What are you doing? Don't write it like that. Do it like this. So I'm always bouncing things off of musicians, and it helps me out because I'm learning. So yeah, I'm always I need help, musicians. Sure, yeah.
Have
definitely.
If I knew someone that was a musician that is looking for creating music for background in movies or whatever, how would they contact you?
Oh, so my email, they can contact me via email. I wish I could write in it. I should write it in the chat.
Yeah,
but it's
just drop it in the chat.
You got your website too.
Yeah, I know, huh? So my website, my email is Steven STEVEN LAMAR .more MOORE at gmail.com.
Oh boy, I didn't get that, but maybe I can get it from Kurt.
I put it in the chat, but I messed it up in the chat. So
yeah, just where the two is and put the at. You had it right though.
Okay. I'll do it.
Other questions for Stephen? Yeah, Bowen.
Just some smaller ones. Have you ever composed or thought about composing jazz?
Oh man, yeah, I do that pretty often. Yeah, I do it all, pretty often. A lot of the stuff I do is jazz. On my spare time, I do a lot of hip hop jazz stuff, just for fun. It's kind of a personal taste. I'm a jazz. I love jazz. I love classical music. So on my spare time, man, I'm always on jazz. Always fun. And Kings was a jazz influenced score. Kings, the clip that Kurt played at the end, that's a jazz influenced score. If you watch the whole film,
was that was that particular scene like a slam poetry scene or something similar to that?
Yeah, the poetry scene. Yeah, exactly.
I guess another general question is, would you have any advice for someone just wanting to get into the entertainment industry in general? If you had anything, what would you give?
Stay persistent. Really believe in yourself. To the point of like insanity, believe in yourself. and I say that because you're going to hear a lot of no's before you start getting yeses. And you have to be a little insane to the point where, it doesn't matter what anybody says. You got to be really stubborn and bullheaded, man.
To like fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
You gotta run into the wall and just keep running into it and keep running into it till that wall break down. So just persistence, unbelievable belief in yourself, and stay positive. Have fun as much as you can.
Bowen, I can share with you after the meeting some of the things that I went through to make it 12 years in the entertainment industry in LA.
No war stories, Kurt.
Yeah.
No war stories.
Stephen, do you compose at the computer, at the keyboard, some other process? What process do you use for composing?
Oh, great question. I try to do all of them because I try not to be at the computer too much unless I'm there's some things you can't avoid with the computer. But I've had a lot of mentors who they didn't start off with the computer. They started off writing, literally pen to paper, the good old school way, man. And what I found was there's a different part of your brain that's working when you're actually doing pen to paper versus computer. And so what I try to do is balance all that all the way around, and try to tap into different parts of my brain, you know. And my mentor always told me that. He's like, yeah, I like the computer, man, but write on paper, write on paper. He's always telling me, write on paper. You know, you get a different understanding of music. I guess it's one of those things where, you know, that connection, pen to paper, is something that you can't really quantify. But I try to do it all. I try to balance it out.
Did you have a question, or did you just want to say bye?
I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you
Oh,
all.
you're welcome.
Yep, nice to meet you all.
I appreciate you
Hope
guys
to see you
coming.
again.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Just one quick one is, now you talk about your mentor and stuff. I mean, did you get all those things kind of like when you went to your music school education? Or, I mean, how much did that of worth was your education side of the Academy of Arts or whatever it was?
Right.
Versus other people.
It, you know, I know, right? Because the valuable part is, I would tell people, you know, do you need to go to school to learn this? No, you don't. But the valuable part that I've got from going to school is meeting other people, meeting other creatives,
networking, right?
meeting directors, meeting producers. That part, you know, you can't really, it's priceless, you know what I mean? And as far as getting mentors, what I did was I was just proactive, man. I just went on, you know, Google, and I look up orchestrators in LA, you know, and my mentor, I found him. He's a professor at USC for the film music program. So I just Googled him, sent him an email, said, hey man, I'm an aspiring film composer, I'm looking to learn. Do you mind showing me some stuff? And they were pretty open to it, and you know, they helped me out to this very day, man. So a lot of it is just not being afraid to just contact people. You just never know. And a lot of guys really love to teach. And it's just, some people just don't reach out because they may feel like, you know, hey, he's not gonna, why would he want to help me or talk to me? And even when you contact these guys, they might not even get back to you in 3 months, you know, but it's just about being persistent and say, hey man, you know, I'm working on this, and you know, and eventually they come around. So just being proactive, man, and swinging for the fence.
Maya, I hope you were listening carefully to that.
Yeah, being persistent but not being annoying. That's huge. That's huge.
Fine line, right?
Do you?
Fine line.
It's a fine line, just tipping that toe line, you know.
Do you have a favorite movie music score?
Oh man, I love The Incredibles, man. I love that big band. Dun, 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 dun. I mean, I love that. Man, I love Up. That was a really cool score. Up.
How would you?
That's an old movie, but that one was great.
Would you? How could you compare the scores between Incredibles and Incredibles 2?
I mean, it's kind of to me, it's similar because I mean, it's hard because those kind of films. I mean, how much can you really do? Because the first one was so good, and as a composer, I would think that'd be hard because you kind of compete against yourself, you know, again. And that's kind of a weird thing, but once you get to that level, that's pretty cool. Compete against yourself.
Steven, when just out of high school and heading off to college, was your career path football and your hobby music, or were you thinking music when you went to college and found football, then went back to music?
It was football first. I always was in music because I grew up in church. I was in choir, and you know, so I was around music.
But when you started,
had a bunch of records, things like that.
When you started college, your career path was going to be a pro football player.
He probably
yes, that was the idea. But I was also making music during that time too. But it was more of a hobby.
So it was a hobby, and it became something you did professionally.
Yeah.
Right.
See, Steven will be pretty humble about this, but me being mega Oregon Duck lifelong fan, I will say Steven could have very easily been drafted somewhere between probably the 3rd and 7th round of the NFL draft. But then there was a really unfortunate. Do you want to talk about what happened to you that kind of derailed your football career?
Yeah. So I was living in San Francisco at the time, Oakland, and I was training for arena football at the time in San Jose for the SaberCats at the time. And I came to LA just to visit my parents, visit family. And my auntie lived by USC. And during that time, it was a lot of violence between black and brown at that time in LA. And I just happened to be caught up in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I ended up getting shot 5 times.
Oh, wow.
3 in my left leg, 2 in my right leg, and I ended up shattering my tibia and fibula. So that pretty much ended my football career. And that was one of the darkest times of my life, man, because I didn't really know where I was going after that. I kind of had to just soul search and figure it out. But I think in hindsight, when I look back, man, it was a blessing in disguise, man, because it forced me to focus and it forced me to really dig deep and figure out what I was going to do. You know what I mean? And with that, man, I have a different appreciation for life, today. And that's part of the reason why, man, I don't care about throwing paint against the wall. I'll swing for the fence as hard as I can. I'll keep hitting my head on the wall, and because what could be worse? You know what I mean? So live and do the best you can, and that's what happened. But it took a while to get out of that, man. As far as seeing the positive light out of that, because that was a really dark time, man.
Yeah.
But, we all have, right?
Well, I mean, things definitely worked out for you, but it was definitely tragic when that happened, because Steven really did have a legit shot at the NFL. He was a hell of an Oregon Duck football player. How many thousands of times have people brought up your punt return for a touchdown against Michigan? Like, I'm sure, like, because I know a bunch of Oregon players because I grew up in Eugene. Like, I'm friends with guys like Kenny Wheaton, and he tells me he says like 500,000 people were at the '94 Washington game. Everyone claims that they were there to see his interception. So how many hundreds of thousands of people at this point have said that they were at the Michigan game in '03 when you had a punt return for a touchdown and an interception? And
oh, man. It's, and it's so cool, man, because I still get emails every once in a while from Oregon fans say, hey, man, I watched the Oregon game on a ESPN Classic, and I remember the game. It was so cool, and it's really uplifting, man. And then to piggyback what I was talking about before, and another reason why I say Oregon is so cool, man, because even when that happened to me, that tragic situation, Mike Bellotti called me, a lot of the football coaches called me, and I left LA and I came to Eugene to rehab for like 9 to 10 months. Mike Bellotti let me use the facilities. They took care of me at Oregon, man. So I have a really, really deep appreciation for them for allowing me to heal emotionally and physically. You know what I mean? So it's definitely a blessing. Definitely.
Yeah. We're getting close to 8 o'clock here, but I want to make sure people have a chance to get questions in. So Art?
So you've talked a lot about the moods and happy moods, and a lot of Hollywood movies are not happy. Right? So, but do you see the mood in Hollywood changing? Like in the last year with COVID, the last year and a half, or why is it that Hollywood doesn't like happy movies? I mean, they used to in the 40s and the 50s.
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe the money isn't in that. I'm not sure. I mean,
it's fish in a barrel, making already depressed people more depressed. So
has the mood changed in the last year?
But that's why I like watching animation. Animation is a bright spot to where, and I mean, because I grew up watching Flintstones and all that stuff, so that brings me back. You know.
So is the climate changing down there? Like he's asking about the temperament, the mood. I mean, are people getting tired of being sad and they're like, let's do something, or are they kind of just sinking deeper?
Is there like a shift in the zeitgeist?
Yeah, is there a shift?
I would say at Netflix. To me, they seem a lot more upbeat at Netflix, and I think because at Netflix they seem to be a bit more progressive, and they're hiring a lot of younger folks. I think that might be, they're a little more vibrant at Netflix, at least from my experience with some of the personnel there, versus, when you're dealing with, like Kurt said, Warner Brothers, where there's guys that's been there probably about 40 years in the same seat, and it's just a different vibe, when you're dealing with that crowd. But Netflix seems to be a lot younger. They're going younger. And I think for that reason, it seems a little bit more hipper, if you want to say that, or just vibrant, so the energy is a little different.
Steven, I know it's probably top secret what you're actually working on with Netflix, so I won't ask specifically what it is that you're working on, but maybe you can let us know when we can start hearing some of your work on Netflix.
So hopefully within a couple months. I just worked on something last month. I can't say nothing yet, but hopefully within a month or so. But I did work on, I don't know if you watched Unexplained with William Shatner. He has a show called Unexplained, and I worked on that show a couple episodes early this year. So that's one of the most recent things that came out. But you should be expecting something within the next 3 to 6 months.
We've got about 10 minutes left, so I want to make sure we go around and give everyone a final chance to ask questions. Why don't we start online? Lori, do you have anything that you wanna add as we kind of wrap things up?
Sure. Yeah, I had one other question I put in chat, but have you ever stopped watching a film because the score or the music, I mean, of course done by somebody else, is so bad? Or do you even watch films without focusing on the score and the music? So sort of being able to turn off your work brain. Can you just enjoy and relax watching a movie?
Good question. I can now. In the beginning it was hard because it was hard to separate it, but I can enjoy a movie now without really dissecting it like crazy. And have I watched a movie that the score was as horrible? Not yet. Not really. Not yet. So I guess I'm lucky on that end. But yeah, I'm able to separate my brain now. It was tough at first because I'm always like, oh man, I couldn't really watch the movie because I'm listening for the cues and the hits. It's like, oh man, but I have to watch the movie 10 times without, having to dissect it all. But yeah, I've got better at that.
Maya,
Thank you. I really enjoyed your chatting, Steven.
Oh, I appreciate you, Lori. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
Mary Jane, did you have a final question or any final thoughts as we kind of wrap things up? Oh, you're muted, Mary Jane.
There we go, I think.
Yep.
No more questions, really. I enjoyed your talk tonight and your sharing with us.
I appreciate you. Thank you, Mary J. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, blessings as you go on and create new, exciting things.
So I'll do the best I can. I promise.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Maya, did you have a final question or any final thoughts as we start to wrap up our meeting?
I don't have any more questions, but I just want to thank you for being here, and I learned a lot of new stuff that I didn't know before, so I'm really glad that I attended tonight.
Awesome. Yeah, and to everybody, feel free if you want to email me, contact me, either questions that you may not have thought about, while we're here. I'm sure sometimes that happens. I didn't think about that. But whatever question you have, you can free to email me. No problem. All good.
Joyce, is there anything that you wanted to add as we close out?
Thank you for being here tonight, Stephen. I think you're a real inspiration. I love your attitude and how you come through your injuries, and I think it was a blessing in disguise. I think that your life would have been totally different, maybe not as positive as it has turned out. So I really appreciate you being here and loved meeting you.
Oh, likewise. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
Great question, by the way, too. I learned a lot as well. Not just you guys. I learned too.
John, and final question or final thoughts?
No, just thank you so much. You know, it just helps to know that there's still hope for people who want to start out and do this kind of stuff. Because a lot of times we think, we don't have a chance against all these big people that are all connected and everything, but you're kind of giving us hope that it just takes the effort, putting yourself out there.
Yeah, that's it. There's no magic wand. There's no special sauce or nothing like that, man. It's just, just good old putting your feet to the ground and just running, man. And and it's never too late either. It's just, Ava DuVernay. Her first film, she started at like 30. I don't know what she's 36, 37 now. She just started. So, there's no age thing. There's nothing like that. All it is just doing it. That's it, man. That's it.
Thank you.
David, did you have anything?
Stephen, when you're doing music for a sports movie or sports documentary, particularly football, does it energize you more, or do it kind of brings you down some?
That's a good It would bring me up. I would love to do something like Any Given Sunday. I'll be pumped, man.
So that's something you would go 36 hours straight, just whipping the hell out of it.
Hey, I wouldn't need no coffee, no Red Bull, any of that. I'll be ready to go.
Art? No? Good. Bowen, do you have anything?
Yeah. But before I ask, I just wanted to thank you as well for coming by. It was really nice and awesome to talk to you. You're really insightful on it. It was really nice to hear your thoughts just on music in general. How to apply it. My question is, do you still do anything to foster your sport in your community or just in any aspect of your life on the side? I just asked that because I was an athlete in high school, at least. I was a wrestler, and I'm still really passionate about the sport myself. And I was just wondering, do you still have any of that passion for the sport, and do you kind of do anything to still remain involved, either just in the community in general or working with either any of your old athletes or coaches?
Oh, yeah. So I go back to my high school in L.A., Dorsey High School. Kurt knows about Dorsey High School. Oh, yeah. He knows about all that.
Tons of Oregon Ducks have come from Dorsey High School.
Exactly. You know how it goes. So a lot of times, man, I go back and just talk to the high school kids because I was one of the first ones at that time that came to Oregon. Besides, we had a basketball player that came out of Dorsey that came right before me. But other than that, I was one of the first ones. So I always come back and talk to them and say, hey, man, keep your grades up. Stay out of trouble, that sort of thing. And, you can write your own ticket, you have your own opportunity. So I do it all the time, man. I may not be as hands-on as I was prior just because of time, but, whether it's talking on the phone or going to certain practices, certain days and talking to them, man, I do it as much as I can, sure.
I remember JJ was from Dorsey.
Yeah. JJ's my guy, man. Yeah.
Jeremiah Johnson, running back. He played for the Broncos for a few years, and
Yep. TFL.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for taking some time out. This was really fun. It was great to catch up with you as always. You and I need to do that more often. It's so easy to get kind of lost in the mix and let time fly by. But this was very informative. We really appreciate the time. We will be doing this every month again. So first Thursday of every month. I don't know who September's guest is going to be, but from 6 to 8 here at the Falls Tap House and also online via Zoom. Every month we bring in a different guest from the film industry to talk. And of course we have the Klamath Independent Film Festival coming up. 45 films all made in Oregon at the Ross Ragland. And we will be live streaming the entire festival. and all the films will be available on demand as well for an entire week. We'll have more information. Tickets are going to go on sale very soon, as soon as I'm done finishing the website for it. So there's lots happening. We've had 4 films shot here in town this year, with the prospect of more on the way. So if people are interested in acting or working on crew in some capacity, there's going to be plenty of opportunities coming up, because there's a lot of film interest in Southern Oregon right now. Stephen can assess with this for sure, but LA, the film studios get nickeled and dimed to death with every last little permit and fee possible. So they are just looking for any opportunity to get out of LA to film.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
Klamath in particular is really unique when you think about our diversity in landscapes here. From where we're sitting, drive 15 minutes in any direction, and we either have desert, we have thick forest, we have lakes and rivers, we have open ag plains. The only thing we're missing is a beach. But we have every other landscape all in one location, where for a film crew that's advantageous. They can save money by just being in one central spot and get all those different types of landscapes and not have to travel.
And we have some oddball landscapes too, like the lava beds.
Yeah, and lava beds. That's why one of our films got shot here earlier this year, was because of the lava beds. So there's a lot of opportunities coming up soon. I continue to talk with film studios that have scripts ready. Cast is largely set, and they're just trying to figure out their finances and want to come here. We have one multi-million-dollar feature film that's looking to come here in the next couple months. There will be opportunities for crew on that, or all sorts of things going on. So stay in touch with us. Yes, even if you're up in Portland, Maya, because we did have some people from Portland work on a film that was shot here in April. So there are production opportunities all over the place, and hopefully everyone can enjoy our film festival in September.
Nice.
So with that, I'll say good night to everybody. Thank you, everyone who came out. We appreciate it. And Stephen, thank you for being a part of this so much. It was really fun.
I'm honored, man. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. Sure. Let me see.